Are you making marriage mistakes? We've got some amazing answers. We have Devorah, who is here. She's married 4 years in her second marriage. She's having issues that she wants solved. We're going to solve them today. Stay tuned. This is Leah Richeimer with the Ladies Talk Show. I am thrilled to have you here. We got a lot of email of questions and things like that. And if you have questions, type them in the comment sections and your whatever, type them in. So today we have an amazing, amazing show with Devorah. She's married 4 years to Chaim as her husband. She's got 4 kids from a prior marriage. Her husband has 3 from his prior marriage. And most of them are married, the older kids. Or at least out of the house. There's one 14-year-old daughter who lives in the house. Now, I'm going to introduce you to Devorah. I'm going to first tell you a little bit about her story and what the issues are, but I want you to know something. This is the Get Real show, which means we have this amazing, Sari, can they see that? Yeah? Okay, we have this amazing synthesizer. Am I turning it upside down? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't know what it does anyhow. I mean, whatever. But this makes Devorah so you cannot tell who she is. It's unbelievable. We make up all the details and we have rabbinic supervision on all of this so that she can talk to us from her heart, tell her issues without speaking gossip or lashon hara about her husband. It's really a fantastic system. And we go right in deep and she can really share herself and kind of welcome, because you are kind of like a fly on the wall on this coaching session, whatever you want to call it, this session where we're going to go in deep. And by the time this show ends, you're going to have 7 awesome tools. Whether it's a second marriage, even if it's not, you're going to see these really pertain to everybody. Okay, let me tell you Devorah's story. So let me make sure I get all the details right. So Devorah says to me that we have a pre-show interview, and she said that she has been living a nightmare. That when she thought they were getting married, and she thought, and she's going to be like this great, awesome woman, because she is. She's a very delicious way to meet her. She's going to create this amazing family, and she had this fantasy in her head of what it would look like, and the reality is very, very far from what she thought. And unfortunately, she tried to get everybody into group family therapy and try and really work it out and all the things you're supposed to do. Nobody was interested in having a relationship with her. They conspire against her. They play against her husband, the ex-wife. It's a little bit of a nightmare. She's having issues. She's got an amazing attitude about it, which I find very inspiring. But we want to go through what not to do, what mistakes people can avoid by, and she's going to share a little bit of her story in a minute. She said that she has a lot of trauma in her marriage because her husband didn't put her first. He just he's got boundary issues or whatever, and so he just doesn't put her first, and so she feels very bereft, almost like she's at home, but is it her home? So she's having issues like that. We are going to get a little bit into child situations, stepchildren and whatever, but not a lot. That's a whole show in itself. I'm not an expert on stepchildren. I've got some really awesome tips that'll, at least get you somewhere. But that's a lot at the core, but it's her husband not making her number one. She says that, they went to therapy, she and her husband, and he's doing a lot of things wrong. She said he's doing so many things wrong, and he finally admitted it, and she's happy about that. But those of you who know me know when there's the blame game going on, we have to dig a little bit deeper, so we're going to do that. And she said he apologized about 4 months ago, and she forgave him, but she hasn't forgotten. So she is here today to work through some of the issues that she's dealing with, and also to learn the 7 steps that I'm going to share with you today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Devorah from around the world. Everybody knows we have viewers from all over the United States, New York, middle of the country, Australia, South Africa, Israel, London. So she could be from any of these places. So it's completely disguised. Okay, welcome to the show, Devorah. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi.
Say hello. Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you can tell her voice. It sounds like a little bit like Witness Protection Agency. Okay, so you heard my little wrap up or my little synopsis of what we talked about for an hour the other day. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Did I kind of pin the tail on the donkey and get those facts right?
Yeah, overall.
Overall? Okay, so what is one thing that you'd like to get out of the show today?
I really just want to help people keep their eyes open when they go into a second marriage. That's really my goal.
That's fantastic. Good. We're with you. We're with you there.
I'm a strong person, but we all have our breaking point, and I want to help other women. That's really my goal.
Okay, so let me ask you. That's fantastic. But in your current situation,
yes,
can you identify what baggage that you have from your first marriage? I know that didn't end terrifically. And what baggage you have from your first marriage that you could own up to, or see, I can say this to her because I had an hour-long relationship with her. But you can own up to that baggage that you're bringing from the other marriage that you're blaming your husband for, but really it's stuff you had before. Is there anything like that?
No.
Nothing.
No, because.
Sarit, did you have somebody asking a question from there?
No, not ask, but my question is from what it sounds like in terms of DeVary saying that she wants to help other women. It almost sounds like, and now you asking this next question, it almost sounds like she feels as though in both marriages it was her husband's faults. Which my question is there, meaning, can a person in a second marriage who's struggling, or even in a first marriage who's struggling, are they ever going to be able to change their situation if they can't take responsibility or sort of, culpability for their part in it? Meaning it's two can play the game. Meaning I know I could speak for myself. My husband and I had lots of issues, and still today we work on things all the time. But I'm probably, in my marriage for sure, I'm probably 90% of the problem. Meaning, like, even though I want to pat myself on the back and make myself feel good and say, no, it's all him, I really am. I have things I need to change and I need to work on. And I for sure, without a question in my mind, and divorce for me is not an issue at all and not even an option. But if I would ever be divorced, I would just bring everything into a second marriage. So it's not like it would be better, like I have to fix me now kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Not so that I'm saying that she is wrong. I'm just saying, can that be a possibility? That is there,
No, I work on myself. I work on myself 24/7, and I think you had Yocheved Rigler as a guest. We spoke about that.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And because I was married the first time for a certain amount of years, she let me join, and I'm always working on myself. I don't stop.
So it's great. I don't think Sarit was trying to accuse or anything like that. I think she was bringing out actually where I'm going with this, which is, one of the main things that we always talk about on the Ladies Talk Show is the fact that we can either be victims. Once you like go into the victim mentality, the husband's like this, my circumstances are like this, my mother-in-law's like this, whatever, you're kind of like powerless. You're like, there's nothing I can do, and that's just the way they are, and I'm just like a martyr taking the abuse. It gives you no power and no freedom and no choice and no moving forward and no hope for the future. The minute you can change that in your mind, like this is unbelievable, ladies, the minute you can shift that and say, there is always, always, always something I can do. Let me figure that out. Get a notebook out, get an app, whatever you do, and write down what can I do? What can I do? Well, maybe if I tried this, maybe if I tried that. If you have a close confidant who's not going to think ill of your husband or isn't going to make matters worse, if you have somebody who's productive and whatever, you can talk it over with them and say, what do you think I should do? My husband has no boundary issues. He recognizes he's the one who's got the problem, and he apologized and everything like that. But, I'm just stuck here being totally frustrated, and I work on myself. And what the work I'm doing is I'm letting it go off a duck's back and letting it go off a duck's back. Well, that's one strategy. How about another strategy? Another strategy is, what might I be doing in the home that makes my husband feel unsafe, and so he's running to the kids? Now, maybe you'll examine that, because you're saying that he goes to his kids instead of coming to you, and like, his priorities are messed up. If you ask yourself, what you might be doing. Now, maybe it could be nothing. Maybe you're doing everything perfectly right. But if you examine it, if you're willing to sort of look at that raw place and look introspect about it, which we're meant to do, the whole Muslim movement and the idea of thinking about how you can improve is part of our daily avoda. That's our daily job to think about. If you were thinking about, whenever he comes home, like if he has an issue or a problem and he starts bringing it to me, I really criticize him. I really put him down and I make him feel worse. And because of that, now when something bad happens to him at work, he runs to his daughter instead of me. What does his daughter do? His daughter says, "Oh, I can't believe it, Dad." And she gives him sympathy. So I'm not putting any blame on. I'm saying, I'm trying to give you power, Devory, that what if you are able to think what role you might play in making things worse for yourself, what things you're growing on, not just letting it, working on myself and letting it roll off a duck's back, because I'm amazed at how you can not bear a grudge and show it. You're upset and whatever, but still trying to be an awesome wife. You're doing so much for this man and for as much as you can for the family, and letting them into your home even though they don't treat you well at all, which is not uncommon. And we're going to have some tips and ideas about that. Again, not an expert on that, but I do have some things I think you'll be thrilled with to see some exciting options there. But the point is, when I speak with a woman, and I have a lot of people who are in similar types, a lot of students who are in similar types of situations, and they say, this is the issue, this is what the kids are doing, this is what my husband's doing. And I say, what are you doing? The answer is usually a couple of things. I can't, I get so upset when they treat me poorly that I'm not myself. The worst in me comes out. And they're able to admit that, understanding that, knowing that, sort of forgiving themselves for that, but trying to grow from that. Very powerful. Saying, I'm doing nothing wrong and they're jerks or whatever, it takes all your power away. Is that understandable where we're going to here, where we're trying to get to here?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and also Leah, I feel like, because I understand Devari in her aspect of so many women feel this way. We do so much internal work on ourselves, and most of the time, I don't want to say across the board, but I am going to generalize. Most of the time, men do nothing, meaning they're not going to classes, they're not reading books, they're not listening to shiurim. They feel that as long as they work, bring in some money, whatever, buy their wife a gift here and there, whatever, that they're all good. And the woman is doing so much more of the work. So it's very frustrating because you feel like, but I'm trying everything and it's not working.
Right. So here's what you have to understand.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Devorah, give me 1 second. Let me just respond to this, and Sarit, and then we're going to get right to you. Sarit, you're 100% accurate, but you have to understand one thing. The woman working on the relationship is going to make everything better so that the things that she is annoyed about her husband not doing will lessen. So she has the power to do that. Look, we're a bunch of ladies. We're here. We're working together. We're going to get somewhere. We all are growing, okay? But you have to understand, sitting there and pointing and saying he's not doing enough work is a handy excuse for not doing the work that you can do that would make it better. A lot of people are more interested in being right and their husband being wrong, and he's this and he's that and he's that, whatever, rather than saying, okay, however he is, it doesn't matter. To me, what can I do to make things better? Okay, Devorah, what did you want to say?
No, I was in a bookstore once and I decided to buy my husband a wonderful gift on Shalom Bayis. And there was someone there next to me. She's like, oh, it's such a great idea. She said she'll buy one for her husband too. And I made a cue for my husband and he was so appreciative. Maybe he read 10 pages out of it and that's it. He never finished it.
Right, but you have to understand the underlying message when you buy your husband a book on Shalom Bayis, even whatever.
But as a gift.
As a gift, right? It's like saying, because I really, sweetheart, I really don't think you're good enough. I just by the way, as a small side note, wonderful. Here's a present. You're really not good enough. A wife should never buy her husband a book like that because it's a kick in the teeth. If he came home and bought you a cookbook and said, I really thought you could need this, or he bought you a book on Shalom Bayis, I really think that you ought to read this, you would take great offense at it.
He seems very happy about it.
I know, but deep down, what's he going to, in front of you, he's going to say, that really hurt my feelings because it made me feel like you didn't like, no, that's not a guy. You wouldn't want a guy like that who's like, you want a guy who's soft maybe, or hard, I don't know, whatever. You'd have to, there's a whole thing about having a macho man, but yeah, okay. But he had to do that. He had no other choice. Sarit, did you have a question in from one of the people?
No, I was on Instagram says that they said that they have seen and witnessed their sister in an amazing and successful second marriage. So I guess they're saying there is, meaning it can be done right the second time. But I think, and I want to clarify for that person as well on Instagram, I think what I was saying, that if it's not done right the first time and you don't then work on whatever it is that went wrong, unless it's an abuse, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if the husband was abusive, then the wife needed to get out and she has zero fault. Like there's nothing she could have done. Right. But if it wasn't abuse, it's always two parties. Like my grandmother used to say to me all the time, you can't start a fire without a match. Meaning you can't, if someone is starting with you and you are combative back, then yes, you're going to get into a fight. If you're able to hold back and not say anything and then approach it in a more thought out way, the fight won't happen. So there is two parties. You can't fight with one person. Yeah. Yeah. So until you work those through, second marriages for sure can work. Second time's the charm, I guess they say. I don't know.
Right. No, it for sure can. And we're going to let's go get right into the 7 secrets or the 7 mistakes. But I just, there's one other thing I wanted to, Devorah, you had said, one of the things that I get approached by so many women who say to me, Leah, marriage issues, I'd probably be better off divorced, right? And I'm like, the grass is not greener on the other side. There's so much to go, whatever, like what Sarit's saying, you bring whatever you brought, whatever dysfunction, whatever past behavioral patterns, whatever things are not working in marriage 1, you have a high propensity for them to go into marriage number 2. And you also have a high propensity to choose a husband that's going to bring out that fits that dysfunctional pattern. We all have dysfunctional patterns, okay? Everybody, So just knowing what they are and being able to deal with them. So Devorah, you had mentioned that the grass is not greener, and you were saying you felt very strongly that women, before they would ever think of divorce, that they should realize that they're going to carry all that baggage in with them. That was part of our meeting yesterday. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to add to that?
I don't, what's the question?
I just wanted, okay. So.
No, one thing I mentioned is very important, that you go to a therapist or a third party or a Rebbitzin. You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
So there's too much from, like you mentioned before, baggage from each side. Not about the previous marriage. It's just in terms of children, and the whole cycle is very different.
Right. So I'm going to try and bring this from a different angle, because I wanted to see if there's anything. If there's anything you can see now, is what might you be doing in your current marriage that might be making things worse?
Making things worse?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you mean, because things are great in terms of our marriage.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what do you mean worse?
I mean, the issues that you're having with you said you're living in a nightmare or whatever. Are there things that you're doing in that situation that you could look at and think whether you are, there's anything that you're doing that you could do better in the problems that you're having, in the issues?
I don't think so, because after everything you and I discussed, I just let go, let God, and I'm very much at peace.
Right. So I'm gonna before I get into the 7 things that I want to teach, I have to be a little harsh here. But you're a stranger to people. You're anonymous. But it kind of is a little bit troubling that you don't think that you're to blame for anything, and that it's all your husband and how he's handling the children that cause all of the nightmare that you're in. And you're not in a nightmare. You said it's a pleasant marriage. It's a wonderful with him. It's wonderful. But you did say you've gone through hell and you're living in a nightmare.
I did. Well, I've had representatives I have representatives I speak to, and shiurim that I've gone to. That's just helped me. So I'm very much at peace. Situations they are, but it's your reactions and how you act within them.
Right. So the thing I'm trying to get to, and you know, is I'm trying to get to, you know, how I gave the example of, you know, if your husband, it keeps going to the kids and keeps going to the kids, and you could have a wife who the reason is because when he comes home, when he has a problem and he comes home, she criticizes him. Okay. So as soon as she knows that, the minute she understands that she has, she's doing something to make her own situation worse, and we all do things to sabotage ourselves and to make things worse, okay? The minute she knows that, and she knows exactly what it is, she's got power. Before that, she didn't have power. She's just like, he went there again, and he leaves me out at a time when he should be cleaving to his wife and coming to me. He goes to his daughter. You know, but the minute she understands her own actions, she's got power to and hope for the future. And that's what I'm trying to get to with you. You're saying you have Rebbitzins and you have support and you're at peace with everything. What I'm looking for in order to help you, because you can say, fine. And the next time you get into a rut, which we all get into, or you get into a situation, you're like, how did this happen again, or whatever. If you look inside, you may not be able to see it now, maybe not. If you look inside and say, is there anything I could have done? Look, he's got boundary issues. It's out of my hands. I've just got to suffer. Or he's got boundary issues. Before he leaves the house, I say, listen, I know you're getting the results back from your actuary exam, or I don't know if he learns, or I don't know what he does. You know, I know today you're going to have a meeting with your boss. And I know that probably if it goes well, you'll come home. If it doesn't, you're going to your daughter's. I want to be there for you. What can I do, husband dear? Chaim, what was his name? Chaim, his made-up name.
Chaim.
I want to be here for you. I want to be the one you run to. What am I doing that makes you not want to be with me? Or what can I do better? And he might say, you know, you always criticize me when I come with a thing like that. You say, well, you deserved it, whatever it is. But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to point out, I'm trying to give you power. So if you're saying everything is, wonderful.
Because I've learned from all these situations that I discussed with you, the power is Siyag Chachma Shtika.
Okay, translate that for our audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. The power is just to be quiet and let him speak. Let him do what he has to do. Go on his flow. It works better that way. And it's not that I don't have a voice, but when you're with your true soulmate, which I know I am this time around, thank God.
Thank God.
It works when I follow on his path. Because if I want to go in my way, because I'm a woman, empowered a woman, it doesn't work.
Right.
So it works.
Right. Going on your path, on his path, is gorgeous. I'm totally with you. And when I say power, I don't mean power. I don't mean control. It's a big difference.
No, I know you don't.
So I know you don't. What I'm saying is, if he is trampling your feelings, because men do. That's just and we trample on our husband's feelings and whatever, each other. It's not like, but men trample on a woman's feelings or whatever. And if you just keep quiet, then it might build. Whereas if you were able to
No,
say,
it depends on what the situation is. I'm not a doormat.
Right. No. Yeah. But
there's a way to speak.
There's a way to speak.
And there's a kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being quiet in terms of his kids and where he wants to go is fine. Okay. I can make choices. And my choice is to not, and he knows it. And I'm very comfortable with that within myself.
That's fantastic. Okay, that sounds great. So, I'm digging to try and help you to be stronger in the situation because, for instance, if you are quiet and quiet, I'm all for being quiet. It's gorgeous. But if you start to feel any resentments coming up because you're bottled up, like you say, you don't want to be a doormat or whatever, then the key there is to really, really think and introspect. What do I need to say? And how do I say it to my husband in a way that he can hear? So rather than saying, you always go to your daughter before me, and I keep using this example because it's kind of what's happening is priorities. That's going to backfire and that's just going to cause friction. Whereas if you after he does it and you come home or before he's going to do it or something like that, you're able to really think through what your own emotions are and say, listen, I know it makes me seem needy or it makes me feel like, like I want you to have your total loyalty to me, which he should have. I want you, but how are we going to handle this going forward? Like put the problem, this isn't your issue, this isn't your problem, it's both of your problems. How are we going to handle this so I don't land up feeling like when we go to a simcha, and everybody else is there and they're not treating me well, how are we going to handle this? And rather than you sitting there in the thing and steaming, you can be in the event and you can say, listen, 3 times during the event, somewhere near the beginning, somewhere near the middle, and somewhere near the end, I want you to meet me in the what's right outside of things, Sarit, outside of the hall. What's that called?
The entryway.
The hallway. They're dancing in there. There's a wedding going on or whatever, and you're very uncomfortable. 3 times during this event, I want to meet you in the hall, 5 minutes tops, just to say hello, touch base, give me strength to go back in there. Whatever it is. When you have an open dialogue about it, you can really take care of yourself in a much better way. And then rather than being victim to just steam coming out of your ears and you sitting here, you're over there and you're dealing with his kids who are treating you poorly and he's over there laughing and dancing and having a great old time, you can get some sympathy, you can get some support, you can get some, there's a lot a woman can do to take care of her emotional well-being. And the key is to do introspection, know what you need, and again, not doing it in a nasty way. You better meet me 3 times. No, say, how are we going to deal with this? We're going to this thing. I'm going to feel so bad. I've got to, my kid is coming with me to the event, so I'll feel a little better, or I've got a best friend that's going to sit with me at it or whatever. But if I met you in the hall, even one time, it would mean a lot to me. It make me feel supported, like you get it, like that. Okay, let's go right into the.
Leah, maybe I was going to say, maybe do the 7 steps, and then she'll actually find something that she's like, oh.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I don't want her to walk away without having this awesome shift in who she can be, and in her marriage to have an Aliyah, to have Aliyah going up, a rising up, being closer to your husband than you ever thought possible. That's what I want to provide for you.
Right.
I'm just looking at, where can I dig to figure out how to do that? Okay, let's go right into the 7 mistakes in a marriage. So number 1 is comparing spouses. This is kind of obvious, but yet every person who has called me and said they're having issues in a second marriage, every one of them has started rattling off their comparisons. I'm like, wait, hello, step number 1, don't compare. For whatever reason, God gave you this guy. For whatever reason, he gave you that guy. Who knows how the whole thing and what the spiritual ramifications of everything are. But the minute you start comparing, you rob your husbands of their individuality. You rob yourself from being able to fully savor and enjoy your current marriage. You rob your husband of being able to be the light in your eye. You turn him into a person who has to compete with some unknown, idealized version of somebody else. Now, it obviously makes a difference if a person is divorced or widowed, because if they're divorced, then they're comparing against, If they're widowed, they might have an idealized version of their husband, of who he was, or their spouse. If they're divorced, then they may have all kinds of mixed emotions because that person's still alive. They're still co-parenting. There's still a lot of tension. There's a mourning period that they may or may not have gone through fully from that marriage. So there's a lot of dangers in comparing. One of the things also is that, and you spoke so highly of your husband versus your second husband versus your first husband, but again, that's a comparison. But that's fine because you're doing things that are helping you to bond with your your second husband. But one of the worst things that you can compare are anything physical, anything emotional, anything what their actions are, what their jobs are, anything around the comparison is just extremely painful for the spouse. But for yourself, what it sets yourself up for is a kind of being unable to give, to receive. In other words, Rav Moshe Cordovero gives over all bracha comes from Shemayim through the husband and to the wife. And if you are comparing, it's kind of like you're blocking off any of the blessing that's coming from Shemayim to yourself. That's really like no joke. That's what's happening. You're blocking it. Don't give me. And bracha means, blessing is, parnasa and happiness, and the dishwasher works, and the kid does well in school, whatever it is. All the blessings that you could be receiving, you're not receiving because you're busy not receiving what your husband's giving, but you're comparing and putting him down and putting him in a bad place. Even if you're comparing, he's better than the other one, it's still not taking him for who he is. So very, very crucial. Okay. Comparing is actually a habit. This isn't like a mental thing. Someone decides, oh, I'm going to start comparing. It's just a bad habit. And it's kind of like if you bite your nails, so then you have to paint that, what's that stuff called? Like turpentine, whatever you paint on your nails so that you don't bite your nails. If you're smoking, you have to go cold turkey, whatever it is, it's breaking a habit. So comparing is often not a volitional thing that someone chooses, I want to do that. It's usually something that is just a bad habit. And when you find yourself doing it mentally, you're like, freeze and stop cold turkey. If you want more advice on how to break habits, you can Google it or ask a friend or ask a therapist or somebody who's good. There are great ways to break habits, and that's the first place to go with comparing. Okay, number 2. Lack of introspection. So many second marriages, because the wounds are so fresh and so deep, and the pain is excruciating. I mean, everyone's like, I want to get out. Even people who leave the marriage and say, I'm out of here, whatever. I can't take this anymore. I'm done. They get divorced. They get their divorce certificate, whatever it is, and they are, like free. And then there's this whole crash of reality of all their dreams. They feel, worse about, the people they thought they were close to aren't treating them well anymore because they are uncomfortability even having them over. I mean, it's so painful. That's across the board. Not that we shouldn't get divorced. The Torah says divorce is warranted in many cases. They also say that God himself cries with every divorce. But the pain is so raw and so there that the only way almost to deal with that type of a level of pain is to blame the other person and make a villain out of them. And maybe they were a villain. I don't know. It could be. And maybe they did villainous things. Is that the right word? Villainous things. But the point is that without introspection, again, we've been talking about this, Devorah, without introspection, you land up having just a feeling like it was all my first marriage. It was all his fault. Yeah, as Sarit said, you can't have a fight. You need, what is it? A match. You need a match. To start a fire. So, but taking responsibility is a big part of the maturation process, and doing that introspection and understanding what part you played in making it bad will be the most powerful tools you can use to strengthen your second marriage. Is that you following me, Devorah?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I wanted to ask you something. what are you supposed to do when your husband doesn't take your side?
Against who?
His kids.
His kids. On what kind of an issue?
On anything.
So everything he takes his kids' sides, or only on things relating to the kids?
I don't know. I'm just saying to Stam.
Yeah, no, it totally depends on the issue. In other words, if he is taking their side on how they're raising their children, okay. If he's taking their side,
that's not my business.
Okay,
that's not my business.
That's right. Okay, so if he's give me one example of where he would take the kid's side against you.
Because his kids catch about every cotton picking little thing. So because of that.
Against you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying anything you do, they pick apart?
Yeah. I'm very happy. They're not in my life, and I'm very happy with it. I'm actually more relaxed and calm.
Without having them in your
day. But meaning, Leah, it's
fabulous.
It's like
what I hate saying it.
Yeah, what if it's almost like what a first-time person, I know even for first-time marriages, where a husband takes the side of a child over the wife, or the wife takes the side of the child over the husband, and they're not together because you want your husband to defend you, no matter what they're saying, even if they're saying the true thing, like, you were terrible and you were horrible and you did it wrong and they are calling you out on it. You want your husband to say, no, mommy's perfect. She did nothing wrong. And do not ever talk like that about her to me. Like, you want that.
Right. And so you're saying, how do you get that from your second husband?
Listen, when the baby who's 16 is, 14 or whatever, is chutzpahdik, my chayim doesn't stand for it. Like, no way, you can't be that way to your mother.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
The problem is,
right, but he's not doing it with the other kids.
His kids,
she's saying.
To me.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So what have you tried? What have you tried in the past to get him to understand that you want him on side?
We've had many discussions. I don't even remember, honestly, because I've been through a Gehenna, but it was his fault from the beginning.
Why was it his fault?
I'm not into the blame game. I can own when I do something wrong.
Right.
But when children tell a parent from day one, we're not interested in a relationship with Devori, her children either, from the beginning, before you even get married, things should have been handled differently from his end from day one. And this is the result. So he's in his own little stuff with them, and I've learned not to care anymore, and I don't. And I don't.
So that's good.
You see, Leah, I hear so much pain in what she's saying that she's almost resolved. That's why I think when you asked her that question about does she have anything that she can own up to, she doesn't even have anything anymore because she's in so much pain, but she's tuned it out, and she's almost like she has the Rebbitzins who are guiding her to, and she's come to terms with it, but she's almost come to terms with misery, and she's just now covered it up to just be, well, this is what it is, I'm accepting it, there's nothing I could do about it, I'm just going to be, me and his kids are never going to have a relationship, he's never going to take my side over them, and that's all it is, and it's so sad.
No, it's true, but I think she's got misery about that. I don't think her whole marriage is misery.
No, yeah, misery about that, for sure. She's doing amazing with him, and if they didn't have to have the kids involved, she'd be like flying high, but it's so sad because it's still such a big part of it. It's definitely affecting them. Whichever way you cut the mustard, when he is sitting there treating her, not treating his kids, taking his kid's side over her, that has to be hurtful. I know me when my husband, and he doesn't even do it like harshly or intentionally. He'll like agree with something my child is saying, and I literally want to like kick him under the table going, don't you dare, like take my side. I don't care if I'm wrong.
Right. 100%. So, but the issue is, and maybe you've blocked out what kind of conversations you've had, but you've been married for 4 years now, and you said that you guys went to therapy for a bit together. I mean, there's got to be something he loves you, obviously, and you love him. There's got to be some way that you can communicate to him how painful it is when he takes their side so that he can understand. Now, he may not feel like there's enough, what he can do about it. He may not be able to creatively think of better ideas, but you can, or you can go to a therapist again with the express intention. Listen, we're coming to you. We want to be here for 5 sessions or 7 sessions or whatever. We're just coming here. We want to get a list of things we can do when my husband, when I feel betrayed or lack of loyalty for my husband to his kids. What are 10 things we can do in that situation? When a kid says something bad about me to my husband, what words do you want him to come out of his mouth on the phone? I'm going to write them down on a piece of paper, a Post-it note or index card, somewhere where somebody won't see it, on the inside of the medicine chest, that says, when this happens and they say something bad about me, husband, you need to say, I hear what you're saying. I understand that you needed to get it off your chest, but that is Lashon Hara. It's gossip about my wife, and I'm not allowed to believe what you said, no matter. And I'm hanging up the phone after this, but I just want you to know I heard what you said. I'm sorry you felt badly about what she did, but I'm not allowed to listen to it. But God himself told me not to listen to gossip about my wife, so I'm so sorry. I've got to get off the phone. So there is that's just one example of a dozen different things that you can do that your husband, he's a good guy. You said to yourself, he's a sweetie, he's a yummy.
He is.
Yes.
But I think he's lacking gevura. Mm-hmm. And if he would have said first, and I said this to him, and he agreed with me, but he didn't. So it's sort of like dust under the rug. If he would have stood up and said, "Listen, this is my wife. If you want me in your life, you cannot treat her this way, and I'm so sorry."
Right.
And then.
Right.
But can't be in my life anymore.
That's true. That's very easy to say, even if you were given that task to kind of tell your kids that.
I know, but my kids actually treat him with respect. Right. And are decent.
I know, but it would be what you're asking him to do. You're saying he lacks gevura, whatever. A man gets much of his gevura from his wife, by the way. So that you can give him the gevura. A husband gets most of his gevura, his strength, from the wife. So
correct.
You could actually
when you have
give him
a crazy ex-wife who's involved.
Right. I hear.
And I'm just even though it's all Hashem controlling everything, and it's her in that too, it makes it more challenging.
I get it, but you have Mount Everest, and do you know? I mean, the challenge is Mount Everest. People scale Mount Everest. They get to the top. They do. They get there. They have to research very, very carefully. What backpack do I need? What shoes? What what sunscreen do I use? They research. They figure it out. They get the right ropes. They get the right picks and axes and what. I've never climbed Mount Everest, so no, I'm not saying this from experience. I'm just guessing. They do their homework because their life depends on it. Well, lady, your life depends on doing the homework of what you need to do to make this marriage work. Second marriages are much more challenging. They have a much higher divorce rate. Why? Because of issues just like this. It's usually kids, stepchildren, exes, financial. There's a lot of issues that go into this. You are a smart lady. You are a strong lady. I've had a good conversation with you, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this and hearing this can tell you have a lot of strength. I am telling you, use your strength and your brain to figure out what actions you can take to make this better, because you can. I get it. You've got let it water off the duck's back, and you're gonna, you're letting him do his own thing. Wonderful. But I'm telling you that from the inside out, there are things you can do to improve your husband's behavior with his children and to make him more loyal to you. So let me go through. We've only got a few of them. Through a few of them, I want to give you a lot more tools. So Okay, number one was never compare spouses. Number two was lack of introspection. These are the mistakes people make. The third one is the spouse never feels safe. So when there is trust in a relationship, a marriage flourishes. If there isn't trust, or you feel like there's loyalty issues, or issues, he compares you, or you compare him, or whatever, then the marriage isn't as strong. And in trust building in a relationship is difficult in any case, but particularly in a second marriage, because both of you, depending on who was divorced, if you're in a situation where both of you are divorced, both of you know that you're capable of bolting, for better or for worse, that you've been through it once, you know the ropes or whatever. There's some people who think, oh, my wife wouldn't, or my husband couldn't. So there's a little spice in there of lack of trustworthiness that the partner can feel. So it makes it that much stronger and that much more important to build trust and to be dependable. And I'll tell you the number one way to build trust in the marriage is to constantly refrain good compliments, good assuring words, good, saying, oh, hey, maybe in 10 years we'll be like that. Hey, see that little old lady and husband walking down and through the grocery store? That's going to be us one day. Just keep saying assuring things to make them feel confident and safe. And then follow it up with actions. When you're, making a card for them or whatever, make a lot of little hearts, or do things that like they know, he ran out of laundry, and you're the one who's responsible in the house for laundry, and he's upset about it, and he made the mistake of saying, where's my laundry? He said it a little nasty. Go, why do you do the laundry? Just do it. Yeah, you're doing it with resentment, which is annoying. I get it. That little reassurance that you're taking care of him assures him and builds trust in the marriage. Never, ever, ever, ever bring up divorce. Never say, oh, yeah, you do that again and you know where I'm going. It's not funny. It's not ever funny. And on top of that, it brings in, who knows, in the spiritual world, those things coming out of your mouth, what they do and what effect they have. I don't know. We know words have power. I would be terrified to say something like that. To say either, using the divorce word, never, but also insinuating, or like him saying, hey, look at that. He says something really stupid. Men should never compliment another woman's outfit or something like that. Oh, I liked her dress. Don't joke back and say, you like her, why don't you go with her? Or what? God forbid. These are horrible, horrible things. Never say anything like that. And I've found in surprising circles, I've heard these kinds of things. Very, very crucial. Guard your mouth. Guard it, because that's where the trust in your marriage is going to be. Okay, number 4. Unrealistic expectations. So this is one of the biggest mistakes in marriage, second marriage, is women, their first marriage was just a disaster. They blamed their husband on a lot of it. Maybe they've owned up a few things by themselves, but then they walk into their next marriage and they're like, oh, I read this book and I watched that, story, and whatever it is, in social media, I've seen how this family is, and I've taken that role model, whatever, they're so wonderful. No one ever knows what goes on behind closed doors, by the way. So you look, oh, I wish I had a husband like that. Well, so he's nice and he helps clear the table and he's wonderful, whatever. And then after he ignores her, or he pouts her. Who knows? Do you know? Do I know? In my business, being marriage, Shalom Bayis expert or whatever, I hear all the stuff. You would be shocked what goes on behind closed doors. And yet, all of us hold this, fantasy of what the knight in shining armor, what the man is going to be, and David Hamelech coming on, what it is. These expectations cause so much anguish because our husband can't be himself. He can't have a foible. We can't have a foible. We expect perfection from ourselves. We keep an image so that everybody thinks, and our husband thinks, and everybody, of who we think we are. And the gap between who we are and who we want to be causes us pain. There's a lot of issues here, but expectations, if you take that out of your sights, if you keep the fantasy away and just say, I'm dealing with what God has placed right in my hands right now. I'm not comparing it to what I thought it should be. I'm not comparing it to who so-and-so's marriage. I am going to let go of the expectations and deal with the here and now. It's kind of mindfulness thinking in a marriage way. Right now, what am I dealing with? And get the expectations going up. That spouse feels like he can never measure up. Okay, number 5. I'm going quick because we're running out of time. This is mixed loyalties. That's one of the biggest mistakes in a second marriage. And this is what the main thing we talked about today. And as I started off, that we are, kids in the house, step parenting, it's a much bigger issue than we can tackle. But I do want to say a couple of things about loyalties. Number 1 is to put your spouse first. You have a kid, they're having trouble, they're having challenges, whatever, you're in a second marriage. If you take care of your husband, we know this from our sources. The Torah says, if you take care of your husband, a lot of the issues that are currently troubling you in your life will disappear. God can do anything. He will help you with them. Take care of your husband. Your husband should be taking care of you. In this area, he's not. He's not being loyal to you, and he's not taking care of you. And you, as a brilliant woman, can make it so that you can understand, you can help him to take better care of you. But it can't be through resignation, through anger, through, throwing up your hands. I think you need to unmute there. It's coming on. It's you have to be able to put your husband first and teach him how to put you first. And that is a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm going to give you a couple of things here. So in terms of kids, I said I was going to give a couple of pointers in terms of stepchildren. So this is the time to bring out the best in yourself. The one most powerful way to establish a relationship with your stepkids, and people, please type in if you have other issues, other points that you want to add to this, but is to show interest consistently to your stepchildren. So what that means is, it could be that, this is much better done before the 4 years of marriage have passed, but sometime early on in the marriage or before the marriage even, taking that kid out to a meal or having them over privately or having a conversation or just calling them and having a private conversation. They may or may not be open to it, but you might say, I just, your father told me that you, used to be quite an artist. What did you do in arting? Well, nothing. I did nothing. I used to draw a little bit. Yeah, like what kind of things did you draw? Yeah, whatever. And then showing interest in their interests and sending them an art book. And, the more, it's kind of like the opportunity is there. If you are the best listener this kid has ever had, and even if they're a grown 30 years old, 40-year-old kid, you got your second marriage is after they've already grown and married or whatever. If you are the best listener they've ever had in their life, somehow they will find a way to get a relationship with you. Look, there's inheritance issues, and that can cause a lot of problems with, like, who he married the second thing. What's going to be with me? And what about, there's so many issues that need to be solved by a therapist, and you definitely go to counseling and get these kinds of things worked out, discuss with your husband and how to handle them. But in terms of you and having a relationship with a kid, there is no kid on the planet that if you are a full listener, and after the conversation, you listen, you keep asking them questions like you're interviewing them and whatever. You don't need to give no comments about it, no judgments about it. Afterwards, you always make sure to say, wow, you're such an interesting person, or I learned something from you, or I'm really moved by how thoughtful of a person you are. You always end with a compliment so that they don't feel, after a conversation where they might have opened up to you in the moment, afterwards they might feel a little bit vulnerable and self-conscious, and like maybe they're betraying their mother, their ex-mother, ex-wife, or whatever. If you end it with beautiful compliments at the end, it kind of ameliorates that, and they're like, yeah, but good came out of it. The other thing is, and I've told this to many women, I don't, again, I'm not an expert in it, but I just do know gifts are amazing. Like buying them stuff. Yeah, like, right. Yeah, I had one woman and she said to me, Leah, you want me to buy them gifts? They are so mean to me. They are cruel and mean to me. And you want me to buy a gift? The answer is yes. Be the bigger person. So that's just a standing on one foot. Here's the thing, and this is the next Oh, no, okay, that's number 7. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so that's in terms of loyalties. Here, those are a couple of little tips for how to deal with the step kids. But the main thing there is to have open communication about your husband about it and make plans. Like, we're going to this wedding. I'm going to feel uncomfortable 3 times. I want to meet you in the hall, or twice, or once, or whatever it is. Make up, in terms of loyalties, make sure you have good communication about it. Number 6 is massively bad communication. So that's one of the mistakes in the second marriage. So first of all, there has to be a zero criticizing policy. This goes whether you're second marriage or first marriage or any marriage, or you want a great relationship with your kids or your friend or your sister. No criticizing ever. Zero tolerance policy. Now, constructive criticism, that 1 out of 20 compliments and 1 constructive criticism, maybe. Most relationships can't handle criticism. If you want to correct somebody, even a kid, the nicer you do it. Say, I love the way that you came in on time to dinner, and you sat on the chair nicely. But do you mind helping, clearing your dish onto the, putting it on the counter, or doing the dishes, whatever it is you are. But again, criticism, zero criticism. The other thing is you need to know how to repair conflicts. Read books on it. We have a lot of shows on communication. Go through our past shows at ladiestalkshow.com. Find shows on communication. Read books on communication. Talk to people about communication. Make that your life's work to be a great communicator, because your marriage will be better because of it. Number 7, the biggest mistake that people make in a second marriage is they do not have a plan. They are leaving their entire future to chance. Okay? So what people need to realize is that second marriages are much more challenging than first marriages. In first marriages, they should have done some homework. But for a second marriage, you better believe, get yourself books, get yourself classes, get yourself shows. We have shows on all kinds of things related to marriage. When you see something that you have a weakness in, are you in a toxic relationship? We have go view one of the other shows to make yourself a Bucky. Well, how do you translate Bucky? Sorry, make yourself a genius in being a wife.
An expert.
An expert. There you go. Become an expert at being a wife. It's your number 1 job in your life. I don't care if you're principal of a school, you're a CEO of a bank. I don't care. Your number 1 thing that is going to make you the happiest in your life is being an expert on being a wife. If you want to be an expert, I make no money from this. All the money goes to help people with Shalom Bayis. This is Marriage Secrets. This is my book, 220 Torah sources. Learn how to be a wife. If you know how to be a wife, and by the way, there's plenty of Torah books on marriage. You don't have to read mine. They're probably already on your bookshelves. Learn what does it mean to be a wife? What are the things I could be doing better? Not because it's to be a goody two-shoes, although it's fine to be a goody two-shoes, but because your happiness depends on it. You hear? The amount of your happiness depends on how great that relationship is. And Hashem created us, then He taught us exactly what to do to be happiest and maximize our joy and satisfaction and pleasure and joy in life. And He didn't hide it from us. He made it very clear. Here's what you do. And it's outlined in Marriage Secrets, but also it's all over the place. You can go to any Torah source that you can find that talks about marriage, and it'll make you stronger. So it's having a plan, is knowing what it is to be a wife, and then talking about things with your husband, like, let's have our goal be, right now I'm feeling very low and sad about the treatment your kids are giving me. Let's have a goal in this year to have one event that's pleasant. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make favors for all the kids. So when they come over and sit down at their seat, even though they're treating me badly, there'll be a little $20 gift at each one of their thing that, and when they say, what's this? Are these for us to keep? And they're like, yeah, whatever, the nut bowl with a cracker. I don't know, whatever. You think of something creative, or how about if you can afford it, get everybody a piece of jewelry. Well, jewelry is a little hard because some people like this kind and that kind of whatever. But I'm just saying, make a goal, make a plan, have a strategy of what you're going to do to solve the issues in your marriage. We have the power. Yeah, this will bring back a whole level of hope instead of feeling like, it's beyond my control. You will have power and you will have control. So that is those are the 7 mistakes of a second marriage.
Yes.
We're out
By
of
the
time.
way, Leah, we've had a lot on Instagram saying that this is such an amazing show, so informative, and it's tips that are not only beneficial for someone in a second marriage, but tips that you can literally use in a first marriage.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody
you can
gained
always
a lot.
plan, you can always introspect, you can always buy gifts.
Always buy. There you go. Devorah, thank you, Sari. Devorah, do you have anything last you want to say before we sign off?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Did you get anything from any of those 7 tips? I hope she says yes.
The number 2, the introspection.
Oh, that's good. Okay, you can email me at another time. We'd love to have you back on and to see how it went and see how it's going with the family. But I really do, look, getting to know you, you're a strong lady. I really feel like you can make a huge impact in your circumstances. Doing what's going on in your head and then doing introspection, very, very powerful. But there's also actions you can take very powerfully. And there are a lot of books on them. Google it, whatever, there are a lot of stuff you can do to make your situation better. We don't want you to suffer. We care about you, and we want to see you have a better marriage, a better life. And that's what we're here for. And God should bless you and all of you, everyone who's watching, with a lot of Shalom Bayis and a Leah in Torah and a Leah in Shalom Bayis, and feeling closer to your husband and closer to your family and feeling great about yourself.
Wait, okay. Leah, give a homework to everyone else.
Fine. Okay,
Pick
fine.
One of them.
Pick one of them. Okay, good. That's Sarit. You keep me on target. Thank you.
No, because I don't forget. I work on the homeworks. That's it.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so anyone who wants to do the introspection like Devorah, that's fantastic. Let me just see.
Give us an easy one, like gifts.
Hold on a second. Okay, so I'll give 2. One is one time this week when you're about to criticize somebody for something, anybody, preferably your husband, but anybody in your life, and a criticism is about to come out of your mouth, freeze and just don't say it. Say nothing. Say a compliment instead. How's that for an idea? So that's the challenging homework. And the easy homework is find one little thing when you're at the grocery store or whether you're ordering online because of all this stuff, the COVID, whatever. When you find one thing that is a little out of budget, like you wouldn't typically get that chocolates with a little parfait on top or whatever it is. Is there a parfait on top? What's that thing called? Whatever. Anyway. Hello. Huh? What's that little drizzle?
I don't know.
It could be. Okay, let's call it a parfait because we're making it up as we go.
Yeah, I like it. Parfait sounds French. It sounds
very, very good. Mais oui. Okay, so when you're shopping, doing your grocery shopping, buy one little decadent thing. Doesn't have to be. It could be a peach that they're $9.99 a pound or some crazy thing, but they look delicious. Get yourself one sweet thing. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Devorah, for being on with us. You're a sweetie pie, and you should be gebenched.
My pleasure.
This is Leah Richeimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next.